So I'm here with Alicia Jasinska to talk about The Midnight Girls. Everything's back to front. But this is your wonderful new YA fantasy, and I've been excited to read it since I first got wind that it was on the way. Maybe just to start with, Alicia, could you please just tell us what is The Midnight Girls about and what kind of readers may enjoy it if they enjoy other titles?
So it's like it's about two rival villains who are competing to take a prince's heart, and they kind of fall in love with each other as the story goes.
Yeah, lovely. I think I was really drawn to this one, much like The Dark Tide, your debut YA, because it's just a great premise. Like, you seem to have a real knack for coming up with really nice kind of exciting hooks. And I just wondered, where did you get this idea of kind of rival, the witches' apprentices, and they're kind of always up against each other, the Rafa and Federer, plus a bit more angst and perhaps chemistry. Yeah, so where did this idea come from of these rivals?
Well, I love the rivals to lovers trope. It's like one of my favorites. And I guess after writing The Dark Tide, where it was sort of like a hero and a villain kind of pairing, this time I was like, I want to do something a little bit different. And I had a lot of fun writing the villain last time. So I was like, I'll just make them both villains this time. So that was sort of like the spark of the idea. And then from that, like, I've always wanted to, the whole like two assassins competing to take out the same target. I've always wanted to write like a version of that, but with like magic and witches. So that kind of all just came together, and then that's The Midnight Girls.
Certainly. I think you've succeeded there, because it's such an evocative fantasy world, and I know that you've kind of drawn from Polish history, and I might ask you a bit about that a bit later. But I also just was trying to think like, like The Dark Tide had a similar vibe, and I was trying to pinpoint like, why do I really enjoy this? And I think it's because you seem to have a lot of fun. I don't know if the writing would always be like, I'm sure there were moments where you're like, oh God. But I'm like, you're, and it's not to say that there aren't high stakes and drama, but your writing always seems to come across as someone like just having a good time telling a story. Why do you, is that accurate to your experience? And I guess, why do you like writing fantasy? Because I feel coming out of the page that there's a joy there.
Well, I'm glad that comes across. I definitely have a lot of fun writing it. I think, especially now that I'm writing like professionally, like I have to rewrite and revise, and like it's a lot of hard work that like, and I have to redo the story like so many times. Like I have to love it. I have to have fun with it. Because otherwise, if that wasn't there, like my motivation would kind of just. So I think you have to write what you love and what you have fun writing.
Yeah. Well, and to step into the world building of The Midnight Girls, I note that you've got an author's note in the back that talks about, you've kind of taken from Polish history, but it's not intended to be a one-for-one. But that is your heritage, I presume, a Polish ancestry and something. Yeah. What was it like to kind of tease out things from your own personal ancestry and translate them into your own fantasy world?
It was a bit nerve-wracking. Like it was definitely something I wanted to do. I've always been fascinated with Polish history and like where my grandparents came from and that sort of thing. And it's definitely a period of Polish history that really, I don't know if inspires is the right word, but it's like the last years of the Kingdom of Poland. Like it's so fascinating, and there's so many Polish heroes that come from that era. That's it is inspiring. I drew a lot from that, but it was a bit nerve-wracking because as someone like who's grown up in Australia as well, even though like my dad's Polish and we like I know the culture and that sort of thing, it's also like I didn't grow up there, and so there is that pressure to represent, I guess, people from the diaspora, like, in a good way, if you know what I mean. Yeah. It's definitely not meant to be historically accurate, but I hope it captures sort of the feeling of that era.
No, I mean, I think so. And I think like the kind of Eastern European inspired fantasy is something that we've seen a lot. And I mean, maybe I'm just shooting shots without, the evidence to back it up, but I don't know that all the authors who have drawn from that do have that personal connection. And I think it's lovely that you do, and that you've been able to kind of celebrate it. And did you do any particular kind of research? I don't imagine you could have done a trip in the window that you wrote this book, but have you been to Poland? Did you draw anything?
Yeah, I planned a trip. I really wanted to go, but it, like, with what's happened in the last couple of years of COVID, that just wasn't possible. But yeah, a lot of research through the library and through people I know, and just having people read and give feedback and that sort of thing.
I hope you get there eventually.
Yes, I hope you do.
Can't wait. The Dark Tide was a wonderful debut. What was the main difference between that one coming out and the process of writing that book and a sophomore effort? How do you find now that, like you say, now that you are writing professionally, how is the contrast between the two experiences?
Writing The Midnight Girls was like a very painful experience. Like, I love it, but this book kind of killed me as well. I had a major breakdown. And I think as well, because we were all going through COVID and I wrote it in like the middle of a pandemic, there was, a lot of pressure there. And also it was my first time writing towards a deadline. And I guess that added pressure of knowing like you sort of have an audience now, and that like there's people you have in your head that you're writing for. Like, I love The Dark Tide, but I did want to upskill, if you know what I mean. I did want to do a better job. And like, there's things that, like, as a writer now, I wish I could go back and fix them, that kind of thing. So I did kind of want to do better, I guess, with The Midnight Girls. There was that added pressure on myself, and then the added pressure of knowing like my editor, my agent, people I know are going to read this. And then, it was tough. But they say the second book, the second book is always like that. So I'm hoping it'll get easier from now on. Fingers crossed.
And you did allude to the, as you described, the breakdown in your acknowledgement section. And like, I can't imagine what it's been like being locked down, and then, like you say, having a deadline, and just that different experience. Not to dwell on the hardship of that, but I just wondered, maybe we have other, writers who might watch this who, for pandemic reasons or not, are just having a slog of it. Would you have any advice to them about pushing through a painful writing experience?
Just get the words on the page. Like, you can fix them later. That's the main thing. For me, I did a lot of, because I tend to edit as I write, which is probably not great for like speed and stuff like that. I went back to writing by hand, just to force myself, so I couldn't like sit there and just retype the same sentence over and over again. Things like that. Writing sprints as well. Like, I'm just going to sit down and work on this quickly for like half an hour and then have a break. Basically tried everything to just get it done.